Okay, so today we're going to learn how to draw a realistic human eye, and I'm going to teach you a couple of tricks of how to make it look truly realistic. The first thing you need to know is that our face is indeed divided by the proportions that we had seen earlier. If you notice, we've got a midline that goes directly from the top of our head to the bottom of our chin and divides our face symmetrically. And then our eyes fall on the halfway point of that line. It's in this picture, you can see our eye sockets are resting there, and they are actually partially above the line, but you'll see later that's because of how our eyeballs actually rest within the sockets. There is a really great picture of an eyeball resting in the socket. If you right now take your fingers and gently press on your eyelid, you can feel the outer edge of your eye socket. It's like a big bone with a hole in the center of it. And your eyeball, if you press gently on your eyelid, your eyeball kind of floats inside it and is well protected. Our eye sockets are like that, so that if you run into a wall, the bone around your eye protects your eye from getting squished. Here's what a human eye looks like. These are the parts that we're going to have to really think a lot about. It is a sphere that's attached by a lot of nerves to your brain. But when we look face front, you can see that you've got your eye and your eyelids, and then we have the colored part of our eye, which is called the iris, and the dark part of our eye is called the pupil. And the dark part, if you look below, the pupil is actually a hole. It's actually an opening that lets light into the back of your eyeball. And if you have the opportunity, I suggest grabbing a flashlight and shining it in your eye. And while you look in the mirror, and you'll notice that your pupil gets very tiny. And then if you shut the light off, your pupil will move and enlarge. So the first thing you're going to do is draw an eyeball. And that's just kind of a circle shape. Do the best you can. It might take a couple of times going around to get it circular, but just do the best you can. And then you're going to draw a circle within that. If you notice, that circle that's going to be our iris, and it is about equal distance from all sides of the eyeball. And the distance is about equal to the size of the iris. Within that, you are going to place a circle. Again, that's going to be your pupil. It can be small or it can be large, depending upon how much light is going to be in there. Then I'd like you to take your pencil and put a dot on the left-hand side of the eyeball and exactly opposite on the right-hand side, because now we've got to construct the eyelid that goes around your eye. What I'd like you to notice is that the eyelid actually sweeps from one corner, one of the dots you drew, over the iris and down to the other corner. So it's a curve, it's not a straight line. There it is. You can see it in this picture. And then once you've created both the upper and lower lid, I'd like you to choose a corner of your paper to have your light source coming from. And I always draw a little sun so I can remember when I'm working on a new project. So you draw a little sun, and then that little sun is going to reflect down so that you can see where the light is hitting on the pupil. And I have created a little circular spot so you can see that the sun is hitting down on the pupil and creating reflection here, and the rest of the pupil will be colored black. So here we've got a good example of light hitting a pupil, and you can see on, oops, sorry guys, on the left side of her eye, the light is shining in and creating a white spot, but then on the right side of her eye is her iris reflecting the color. Again, here we notice that the light is coming in and it refracts over the eye. That's important to know because when you are drawing your iris, when you're coloring in your eye, first, if you notice, your eyes have like striations, little lines. If you look closely at your iris, you'll see that there are tiny little lines of color that come out from the pupil. First thing I want you to do is draw that. Just color it in, and then imagine that the light from the sun is hitting your pupil. And what happens, because your pupil is a hole, is it actually bounces out to the back of your iris. So it lights up the back side opposite where the sun came in. So I've used these pencils to show you that the light comes down, enters the hole, which is the pupil, and then bounces off the back of the iris. So this part is going to remain light, while this part of your iris is going to be just a little bit darker. See how I've done it there? So you can see that there's a light area, and then there's the darker area. That is a really important trick that will help you to make a very realistic looking eye. Here we go. Then you can erase those lines that helped you to figure out where the light was going to be reflecting off. Now, this picture shows you about our eyelids. If you look very closely, we have one edge of our eyelid goes right up against our eyeball, and that actually cleans our eyeball and protects it. But our eyelids are not thin like paper, they're a little bit thicker. And so in the bottom, you can see the edge of the eyelid, the thickness of the eyelid. So you're going to draw another line to create the part of the eyelid that is away from the eyeball. And it actually happens on the top as well, but you just don't notice it as much. So you're going to create an upper eyelid, and then you're going to create a lower eyelid. So we've got a thickness here, and we have a little bit of a thickness there. Now, the next thing we need to add are eyebrows. And I would like you to notice that our eyebrows actually sit above on the ridge bone of our eye sockets. And that's a really important thing because they catch the dust and things that are falling from our heads and falling from the sky, and they keep them from falling in our eyes. That I thought you could check out just to see why we have eyebrows. So it's a really cute video, and I highly recommend watching it, but we are going to proceed on. So take a minute to watch that video, especially if you're someone who's really interested in science. Now, our next step is going to be to create. Our next step is going to be to create eyebrows. So we're going to start with the drawing of our eyeball. Sorry, guys. We're going to start with the drawing of our eyebrow and imagine where the edge of your brow bone is. And then you are going to be coloring a curve to follow where the edge of your brow bone would be, right here. And then if you notice, you're going to actually have to choose which side of your face this eye is going to be on, because when you look at your eyebrows, you're going to notice that the part of your eye that is closest to your nose has a heavier part of the eyebrow usually. And as you get away from your nose, it tapers a little bit thinner. So first draw the arc of the eyebrow and then start shading it in a little bit. There we go. We've got that shaded in. Now, the way to know how big to make your eyebrow is actually demonstrated in this drawing, in this photograph here, where you can see our eyebrows line up with the inside parts of our nose and then curve out to an angle off of our eyelid. So once you've colored in your eyebrow the way you want it, then you're going to erase a lot of those guidelines because they get really, really complicated. And it's helpful when you see that you've got your eyebrow the way you want it to get rid of some of the areas. Again, we're going to go back to this drawing because now we need to draw eyelashes. And I want you to look really closely. The way eyelashes grow, they actually come from the outer edge of the eyelid. So you're going to use, you're going to use the outer line as a place to create your eyelashes. The other thing I want you to notice is when they are closer to your nose, your eyelashes are smaller. And as they move to the outer side of your eye, they grow longer. They also curve away from the iris. So if the eyelashes are to the left of the iris, they'll curve off to the left. And as you go around the arc of the eye, they curve around to the right. So I've made a little video of drawing an eye, and I'm going to show that to you now. Drawing eyelashes, I'm going to show that to you now, and I want you to try adding eyelashes to your eye. Okay, so I start in the middle of the eye, just below the pupil, and I'm doing little lines that start at the outer edge and curve away from the iris. I always start in the middle, and I like to go away to the farther edge of the eye, away from the nose. And you see it's a sweeping motion. It's landing on the eyelid line, and then it's curving up and away, up and away. I didn't like those very much. They were too straight. So curving up and away, and then as they start to get closer to the nose, they get really tiny. All right, guys, here's your challenge now. I want you to sit down with this presentation and draw an eye following the directions to the very best of your ability. And be patient. Try it a couple of times if you need to, and I can't wait to see your results. Bye.